Machines beeped steadily. Nurses walked quickly down long corridors. Somewhere, a patient coughed. Somewhere else, a newborn cried. Emma Carter adjusted the stethoscope around her neck as she stepped out of the nurse's station. It was nearly midnight, the quietest part of her shift, when exhaustion usually crept in. But tonight, she couldn't stop thinking about one patient. Room 317. She glanced down at the chart in her hands again. Patient, Daniel Whitmore. Age, ICST. Condition, end-stage kidney failure. Emma had read those words dozens of times over the past few weeks. Yet every time she saw them, the same heavy feeling settled in her chest. She walked slowly down the hallway until she reached the door. The small window revealed the patient sleeping inside. The dim light in the room cast soft shadows across the walls. Daniel Whitmore lay still, his breathing shallow but steady. The dialysis machine beside the bed hummed quietly, doing the work his body could no longer do. Emma leaned lightly against the wall. 3 months. That's how long he had been here. Most patients had visitors, family members sitting beside their beds, children holding their hands, someone bringing flowers or cards. But Daniel Whitmore had no one. No wife, no children, no relatives visiting. Sometimes Emma wondered what it must feel like to face death alone. Earlier that evening she had overheard 2 doctors talking near the elevator. "He's running out of time," one of them had said quietly. "The transplant list is too long," the other replied. "Without a donor, he won't make it." Emma had stopped walking when she heard those words. She had stood there for a moment, pretending to check her phone while the conversation continued. "Strange situation though," the first doctor added. "What do you mean? He's not some ordinary patient." Daniel Whitmore built one of the largest tech manufacturing companies in the country. Emma frowned slightly. "A billionaire, basically." The other doctor whistled softly. "Funny how money can't buy a kidney." Emma had walked away after that. But the words stayed with her all night. Now, standing outside room 317 again, Emma took a deep breath and pushed the door open gently. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and warm plastic from the dialysis machine. She moved quietly to the bedside and checked the monitor. Heart rate stable, blood pressure low but manageable. As she adjusted the IV line, Daniel's eyes slowly opened. He blinked, focusing on her face. "Still awake, Nurse Carter?" he asked hoarsely. Emma smiled softly. "Night shift. We're the guardians of the hospital while everyone else sleeps." He chuckled weakly. "That sounds like a lonely job." Emma shrugged. "I'm used to it." Daniel studied her for a moment. "You always seem calm," he said. "Most nurses rush through here like they're chasing time." Emma sat in the chair beside the bed. "My mom used to say that rushing past people makes you forget they're human." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Your mother sounds wise." Emma nodded slowly. "She raised me alone in Detroit. Worked 2 jobs most of her life." Daniel watched her carefully. "And yet you became a nurse." Emma smiled faintly. "She spent a lot of time in hospitals when I was young. I guess I got used to them." The dialysis machine clicked softly beside them. After a moment, Daniel spoke again. "You know what's strange?" he said quietly. "What?" "I built companies worth billions of dollars." He stared at the ceiling. We negotiated deals with presidents and investors around the world." Emma remained silent. "But now," he continued, "my entire future depends on whether someone is willing to give me a kidney." He laughed bitterly. Life has a strange sense of humor. Emma looked down at her hands. There was something she had been carrying inside her mind all day. Something heavy. 3 days earlier she had secretly signed up for a donor compatibility screening. She hadn't told anyone, not the hospital, not her friends, not even herself, at least not honestly. But the test results had arrived that afternoon. Perfect match. The transplant coordinator had stared at the screen in disbelief. "This is extremely rare," the woman said. Emma's heart had started beating faster. "What does that mean?" "It means," the coordinator said slowly, "you could donate a kidney to him." Emma hadn't answered right away. Instead she had stared out the window for several seconds. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "Kindness becomes easier the more you practice it." Now she looked back at Daniel. He seemed smaller somehow than the stories the doctors had told. Not a powerful businessman, just a tired man fighting to survive. Emma took a slow breath. "Mr. Whitmore," she said carefully. Daniel turned his head toward her. "Yes, I spoke with the transplant team today." His expression remained calm. "They told you there's no donor." Emma shook her head. "They told me something different." Daniel frowned slightly. "What?" Emma's fingers tightened around the chart. "They told me there is one. Silence filled the room. Daniel's brow furrowed. Who? Emma met his eyes. I am. For a moment Daniel didn't react. It was as if the words hadn't reached him. Then he slowly pushed himself upright in the bed. That's impossible, he said. Emma shook her head gently. I took the compatibility test. Daniel stared at her. No. His voice grew firm. You're not doing that. Emma tilted her head. Why? Because you're a youngness with your whole life ahead of you. And you are a patient who needs a kidney. Daniel shook his head stubbornly. You could suffer complications. I know. You could regret it. Emma smiled softly. I don't think helping someone is something people regret. Daniel looked at her carefully. You don't even know me. Emma stood and adjusted the blanket around him. I know enough. He waited. You were alone, she said quietly. And you deserve a chance to live. Daniel stared at her face, searching for doubt. But he found none. Finally he whispered. Why would you risk your life for a stranger? Emma paused near the door. Then she answered gently. Because someday I might be the stranger who needs help. Hundreds of employees were gathered inside the massive conference hall on the 30th floor. Normally, company meetings were short and formal, but today felt different. People whispered quietly to each other. Why did the CEO call everyone here? I heard it's some kind of announcement. Didn't he just return from medical leave? Near the front of the hall, Emma Carter stood nervously beside a long table filled with bottled water and neatly stacked papers. She felt completely out of place. She was still wearing her simpleness uniform. Around her were executives in expensive suits, managers checking their tablets, and journalists holding cameras. Emma's hands felt slightly shaky. She had never been inside a corporate headquarters before. 6 months ago, she had been working quiet night shifts at the hospital in Chicago. Now she stood inside one of the most powerful companies in the country. Her mind flashed back to the hospital room. The surgery, the long recovery, the pain, but also the moment she woke up and heard the doctor say, the transplant was successful. Emma still remembered the relief in Daniel Whitmore's eyes when he saw her again weeks later. The doors at the side of the hall suddenly opened. The room slowly fell silent. Daniel Whitmore walked inside. 6 months earlier he had looked pale and fragile. Now he stood tall again. His silver hair was neatly combed, and his dark suit fit him perfectly. But the biggest difference wasn't his health. It was his expression. The once cold and distant CEO now carried a calm warmth in his eyes. He stepped onto the stage as the audience applauded politely. Daniel raised his hand gently, and the room quieted. Thank you for coming, he began. His voice echoed clearly through the hall. For those of you who don't know, 6 months ago I nearly died. The room became completely silent. I was suffering from end-stage kidney failure, he continued. Doctors told me I had very little time left. Several employees exchanged surprised looks. Many of them had only heard vague rumors about his medical leave. Daniel paused for a moment. During that time, something happened that changed my life forever. He looked toward Emma. She froze slightly when hundreds of eyes turned in her direction. Daniel smiled softly. Her name is Emma Carter. The large screen behind him lit up with a photo of the hospital team after the surgery. Emma recognized the picture immediately. Daniel continued. Emma was one of the nurses taking care of me during my treatment. His voice softened. One day she walked into my hospital room and told me something I never expected to hear. He paused. She told me she was going to donate one of her kidneys to save my life. A wave of whispers spread across the audience. Emma felt her cheeks turn red. Daniel continued slowly. Think about that for a moment. He walked a few steps across the stage. A young woman with her entire life ahead of her decided to risk her own health for someone she barely knew. He looked across the crowd. And not just someone she barely knew. He smiled slightly. Someone who probably didn't deserve it. A few people laughed softly. Daniel shook his head. I spent 40 years building companies and chasing success. He looked up toward the ceiling lights. I believed the most powerful force in the world was money. He turned back to the audience. But lying in that hospital bed taught me something different. He gestured gently toward Emma. Kindness is far more powerful. The room filled with quiet applause. Daniel lifted a small remote in his hand. After my surgery, I started thinking about something. The giant screen behind him changed. A new logo appeared. The Carter Foundation. Emma blinked in confusion. She had never seen this before. Daniel continued. In the United States, thousands of people die every year waiting for organ transplants. He clicked the remote again. Statistics appeared on the screen. Many people are willing to donate organs, he said. But they can't afford the medical costs, the time off work, or the long recovery period. The room listened carefully. So today, Daniel said, we're changing that. Another slide appeared. The Carter Foundation for Living Donors. Emma covered her mouth in shock. Daniel smiled warmly. This foundation will provide financial support, healthcare coverage, and recovery assistance for anyone in the country who chooses to become a living organ donor. A loud murmur spread across the room. Journalists quickly began taking photos. Employees whispered in amazement. Daniel continued speaking. Whitmore Industries will donate $500 million to launch this foundation. The audience gasped. Emma felt tears forming in her eyes. Daniel stepped down from the stage and walked toward her. The entire room watched as he stopped in front of the youngest. You saved my life, he said gently. Emma shook her head. I just did what felt right. Daniel smiled. And because you did, thousands of others will now have the chance to live. The audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation. Emma felt overwhelmed by the applause. She had never expected anything like this. Daniel leaned slightly closer and spoke quietly so only she could hear. You gave me a kidney, he said. Then he added with a soft smile. But more importantly, you taught me the most powerful habit in the world. Emma wiped a tear from her cheek. What habit is that? She asked. Daniel looked around the room filled with people whose lives his company influenced every day. The habit, he said softly, of helping others without expecting anything in return. The applause continued to echo through the hall. And from that day forward, the kindness of oneness began saving thousands of lives across the country.